Today, Tyler and I are going to make ginger dill tilapia with bacon Brussels sprouts. Probably one of our favorite dishes. To make this meal, we're going to need oil. We usually use olive oil. We like the taste. Any white wine you have.
It's actually virgin olive oil.
Orange. A zester for the orange. Sharp knife. We usually like tongs. And a fish spatula or any thin spatula you have. Also, you need, of course, the tilapia, just some salt and pepper, your Brussels sprouts, and the nice hefty amount of bacon. Probably won't use all of this, but that's up to you. Now, to prepare your Brussels sprouts, you're going to want to take them, cut off this little core end piece, and then just slice them in half. And continue until you're done with all your Brussels sprouts. Now we're just going to take our Brussels sprouts, put them in a pot of boiling water, and you're going to want to blanch them for about, minute and a half? Make sure you have a bowl of ice water waiting so you can chill them back down immediately after pulling them out. So now you're going to want to go ahead, get out a pan for your bacon, just cut it up, small dice. Yeah, about 6 strips will do for 2 people's worth of Brussels sprouts.
Just cut it in like half-inch strips. You start rendering the fat in a dry pan and cook it until it's crispy.
After about a minute and a half of blanching your Brussels sprouts, take them out, go ahead and dump them in that pot of ice water you have to cool them down as quickly as possible. While the bacon is sauteing, we're going to go ahead and season up our fish. Just sprinkle a little bit of salt, try and get it as evenly as possible. Put a little bit of pepper on, and then you're going to turn it over and do it to the other side. If you sprinkle the salt a little bit higher, it tends to come out a little better on the fish. Then we're going to let that sit for about a minute or 2 just so the seasoning can really soak in there and get a nice deep flavor on the fish. Once your bacon is nice and crispy, and I mean really crispy, you're going to want to get a slotted spoon, pull it out of the pan so we can leave the bacon fat in there to cook the Brussels sprouts in.
A little bit of the bacon fat. The rest we're going to add olive oil.
Yeah, so we're going to end up using about half olive oil and half bacon fat. This is what I mean. Nice and crispy bacon. Yum. I love bacon.
A little bit. I like to put the Brussels sprouts cut side down and get a nice sear on all the Brussels sprouts.
Make sure your pan is literally smoking hot before you add in your Brussels sprouts. So you get that nice crispy sear on them.
Season it, some salt and pepper. Not too much salt. You have the bacon in there.
So just add a little bit of salt and a little bit more pepper. You don't want to overdo it with the salt or the bacon is going to taste really salty. You're going to want to go ahead and start preheating the pan for your fish. Once the pan gets really, really hot, you're going to want to go ahead and add the oil in there and heat it up. Really hot before you add your fish in.
And once you get some color on the Brussels sprouts, you can go ahead and add your crisp bacon. And then you're going to deglaze it with a little bit of balsamic vinegar.
Just a little bit of balsamic vinegar, or it's going to taste kind of awkward.
And this will pick up all the bacon bits on the bottom of the pan called fond. French for foundation.
And those fonds are really tasty, so you want them in your Brussels sprouts. Trust me.
Also, I like to add a little bit of white wine. Say maybe a 1/4 cup. We're going to reduce that until it's dry.
Yeah, you definitely want to reduce out the white wine, or it's going to be like drinking a bacon glass of wine. But once it's reduced, it has a really, really nice kind of background flavor for it.
So now our pan's nice and hot for the tilapia. We're using extra virgin oil, so it's a little heavier. It'll smoke when it's hot. If it's not smoking, it's not hot. You see a little smoke coming off? Be careful when you put your fish in. You want to make sure you drop the fish away from you. So you start out here and then slowly drop it. If you drop it this way, you're going to get hit with hot oil.
And that's not going to be fun.
And now, you want to make sure you get a nice sear on it so it doesn't stick. It won't stick as bad because we're using a non-stick pan, but especially if you don't have a non-stick pan, you want to get a really nice sear on it. And you should be able to cook it all the way in the pan in about 3 minutes on each side. Now the Brussels sprouts have a little bit more to go before they're all the way reduced, but I don't want to cook them any longer, so I'm going to take the Brussels sprouts out and reduce the rest of the sauce by itself. You scoop out the Brussels sprouts with a slotted spoon, and the bacon too is fine. Then keep reducing the sauce until it's almost a little thicker than a glaze. And push this in. Okay, it's actually been about 1.5 minutes. Again, I was a little bit heavy on my estimate. You don't want to do 3 minutes on each side. That's about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes on each side, and the fish will be cooked nicely. You don't want to overcook the fish or else it's really dry. Then carefully, with the spatula, slide under the fish, put one hand on top, gently turn it over and set it down gently in the pan. You can see we have really nice golden brown color. Remember, whenever you sear a protein in a pan, you have that fond that the protein leaves on the bottom of the pan. That's the base for a really nice sauce if you wanted to glaze. You just need an acidic liquid, lemon juice, wine, vinegar. You can even do it with water if the pan's hot enough. And you pick up the pieces of the fond and it adds flavor to your sauce later. Just for the bacon with the wine and the balsamic, and all the bacon on the Brussels sprouts, it's done. It should look like that. Has a lot of flavor. I grew up as a kid hating Brussels sprouts, but I found if you add bacon and you don't overcook them, they're actually pretty good. So now that our fish is done cooking, I'm just going to put it on a paper plate to rest and redistribute the juices. You always want to let proteins, whatever they are, rest. And they'll be juicier and a better product when you go to eat them. Just a few minutes. Then we're going to pour out the dirty cooking liquid, but not, the fond will still be there. And while the pan is still hot, we're going to add about a half cup of white wine.
Be very, very cautious when you do this.
It might flare up a little bit. That's just the alcohol burning out. It's not a big deal. Keep it away from you. Then we're going to add the zest of a Cara orange, which happens to be my favorite orange.
Any orange will work. This particular one just has a nice flavor to go with the sauce.
And we're going to let that wine reduce by at least 80%. So whatever amount of wine you put down in the pan, you want it reduced by 80%. But we're cooking it down with the orange zest. It's got the flavor of the fish in there. We're going to put a little bit of powdered ginger just because I don't have fresh, but they're both good, whatever you got. A little bit of dried dill. If you have fresh, even better. This way you don't have to keep going and buying herbs every time you want to make a dish. When you're doing a reduction like this, you'll still get good flavor. It doesn't absolutely have to be fresh herbs. Then, cook your wine down. We're almost there. So now our wine is almost reduced by about 80%. When the wine's reduced, I'm going to add cold butter. It's called mounting. I'm going to mount my sauce. This is also a beurre blanc, basically just a wine and butter sauce. It's a French sauce, very commonly served with fish. So now we're pretty much au sec. It's another French term. The wine is au sec. We're going to add the butter. Remember, you have the seasonings left over from the fish on the pan, so just a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. And you have so much residual heat, you don't want to boil the sauce once you have the butter. You just want to whisk it in. If you boil a beurre blanc, it's going to break. If a beurre blanc is too cold, it's going to break. So just like this. Doesn't necessarily affect the flavor of the sauce if it's broken, but it doesn't look as pretty on the plate. So this is what you got. It's a nice viscous little orange beurre blanc we did with the fish. And some chefs will tell you that you have to use wine that you're going to drink with to cook with. I don't agree with that. You can make a lot of really nice dishes with very, very cheap wine. Once you cook it and reduce it, you can't taste the subtle characters of a nice bottle of wine. So now we have our sauce done. We have our fish done. Fish is rested. Take a piece of our tilapia. Should be doing this with a spoon, but I'm not in any of my French restaurants right now. A little bit of the sauce over the top. A little scoop of the Brussels sprouts with the bacon. And that's dinner at our house.
And it is really good dinner.